It's 7 p.m. Pacific time on the Shadow Nose Network. Thanks for tuning in. This is your Pixels and Plastic Ink crew, Dr. Brantley, Mr. Storm, and myself, Rad. Chet Maddox, unfortunately not here, handling some NDA business, if you will. As always, but I am incredibly excited to talk about this topic this evening. I think it's going to be super difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Because tonight, in a 32 elimination bracket challenge, who is the best to ever do it? Who is the best to represent on film or TV a comic book character? We're talking about Robert Downey Jr. We're talking about Heath Ledger. We're talking about Michael Keaton. We're talking about Chris Evans. Who will we narrow down to one? I'm telling you, I've seen this bracket. I don't know how we're going to do it, gentlemen, but we are
Nick
going
Cage.
to do it. Nick Cage. Nick Cage. It's going to be improbable. It's going to be impossible, but we are going to do it. Plus, lots of other news, including Hellboy, the movie, what's the status, Marvel Legends update, and much, much more. This is Pixels, Plastic, and Ink. Man, that intro always gets the juices flowing, the goosebumps. I'm ready to get into how you all doing this evening, gentlemen.
Very good.
Hey,
I saw Chet had a bunch of his Marvel Legends come in, so he may just be buried under boxes or something. So if we don't hear from him like in a couple of days, we better send somebody.
Better. Yeah, well, no, man, it's a great week, brother.
I was going to think, do we have a Chet variant that we could have invited to the, I guess not.
Maybe so, man. But no, it's been a pretty good week, man. Can't complain. Everything's been really good. Had a good Toybox Chronicles. Looking forward to a great Pixel Plastic Ink tonight, man.
Me too. Well,
Texodum. I was just going by the Zaymot and Tomax philosophy.
We're going to jump into it. Before we do that, though, please subscribe, like the channel, comment. It helps the channel grow. We appreciate you all tuning in every Friday. And then if you catch us after the fact, it is all good too. The network is growing. We are on the way to 2K. And if you're not a current subscriber, please do right now. So without further ado, we are jumping into the 32 actor elimination bracket. How it works is there's different rounds, and there's a matchup. It'll be 1 against 1, and we will decide who advances to the next round. But again, to clarify, it is the best to ever do it. So as an example, is Ryan Reynolds a better Deadpool representation from comic to film, or is Tom Holland a better Spider-Man from comic to film? So let's kick it off with this one first. Gentlemen, let's weigh in. Ryan Reynolds versus Tom Holland.
Look, I'll be honest with you. This one is kind of tough because I think both gentlemen do a great job. And I think that like Holland's it has appeared a lot more than Reynolds has as Deadpool. So, but yeah, there's no matching right here. I think Reynolds embodies more of Deadpool than I think
Mhm.
anyone else does. So, and especially with that Deadpool Wolverine, that just put him to a stratosphere that I don't think that anyone else could ever touch. So he's gonna beat Holland, but it's a shame this is the first bracket.
Yeah, I think it is Deadpool, but just based on the last movie,
Yes.
because they did stuff like the side angle where he has that little droopy thing on the very back of his head, where the mask goes. That's something that they always drew, but it never really translated to the costume. This is the first time I saw stuff like this, where it's like so much like the comic book character. Um, and Holland is great.
He
I
is.
think he's probably the best Spider-Man, but
Yeah.
so far at least. But I think Deadpool takes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Deadpool because in the comics, Deadpool is a smartass, and Ryan Reynolds is the epitome of a smartass wisecracker on screen. He just plays the role so perfectly. Of all the comic book characters he's ever played in films,
Mhm.
this is the one he's done the best.
Absolutely.
So I think this is clear-cut winner. Sorry, Spidey, you
Yeah.
have been eliminated. Next up, it is Mr. Cumberbatch himself, Doctor Strange, versus the OG Hellboy 1 and 2, Ron Perlman. Who is the better representation of comic to film?
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm
Uh,
telling you, see, I'm
yeah.
saying it's
It
really tough
was
here.
it was tough only because of the fact is I think again these are equally two harder ones to come up with. Only because I do think that Cumberbatch has done a fantastic job as Doctor Strange, and like he is now I see him more than Doctor Strange than I did see him as Sherlock actually. So, but to put the dedication and the makeup and everything else that you're doing with Ron Perlman, and I know he's been a bunch of like, characters from the Beast on the old series and everything. Um, he just he's the best Hellboy, I think, performance wise. And when I hear that voice, I now think of Ron Perlman's voice as Hellboy. So no one so far has done it better. They've had I believe at this point two other individuals, and Ron's still the best. So I'm gonna say Perlman on this one, man.
I'm gonna disagree. I think Doctor Strange is better with Cumberbatch. The reason is I don't think, Ron Perlman is great, but I don't think he's a comic accurate representation of Hellboy. Um, like I've seen some stuff from even the new one that we'll talk about a little later that it does look like straight out of Mignola comic. Um, but I don't know. I really like Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. That's who I'm going with.
Yeah, this is a super tough one for me because what you both say makes total sense here.
Mm,
Um, but I'm gonna lean towards as Dr. Brantley said, and only because I do agree that the comic version of Strange, I think Cumberbatch does that a bit better
mhm,
than Perlman. Although I don't think there'll ever be a better Hellboy, and he's synonymous with the character. This
mhm,
one is tough, but I think multiple movies in the MCU, and I think Cumberbatch pulled it off. And so I think he is one of the best characters in the MCU and probably more the comic accurate. So as tough as this was, I'm going to give it to Cumberbatch. I wonder what Chet Maddox would have said. Please chat if you're watching this to comment. Are we wrong? Did we get it right? But Doctor Strange advances. Next up, Bale as Batman versus Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson.
This one's an easy one for me. While I think Christian Bale is probably one of the top Batman actors, but there's been several other ones that's done a pretty good job. But like, there is no replacing Samuel L. Jackson on this list. The first minute he walked into the Iron Man at the end of that closing scene, the entire theater erupted and everything. And he has been steadily, every performance other than the disappointment of Secret Invasion, he's always matched it, gone beyond. Winter Soldier's probably his best performance. And it's just when now it's like, he was so good that now they decided to change the Nick Fury to this individual because he's so iconic. It's Samuel Jackson. You hear that voice, you see him with the eye patch or without it, he's Nick Fury.
Yep. Until the Ultimates, if you had said, "Oh, Nick Fury is going to be this bald black guy," you're like, wait, that's not Nick Fury. Now you can't think of anything else other than Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. He works so good in the role. And yeah, Christian Bale is great.
Yeah.
But he's not like he didn't capture a definitive like Bruce Wayne Batman kind of a thing. Now he did give the voice that everyone makes fun of. You guys have to talk like this. But Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Sam Jackson for me too. And that basically no one can wear an eye patch again, because when you see the eye patch, it's Nick Fury. Yep. Next up, it is, this is going to be another tough one.
It's a tough one.
Fassbender Magneto versus Chris Evans Cap. I'll go first this time.
Go ahead, brother.
Man, I was really thinking about this one, and this one's another tough one for me. I think both of them are really spot on, and I was trying to think about the comic book and leaning towards that. And as much as I liked Chris Evans, and I think he did such an amazing job playing Cap, I feel like Fassbender felt more comic accurate than Chris Evans did. And so, controversial, but I'm going with Fassbender as Magneto.
Okay, well, go ahead, Dr. Brennan.
I was going to say I go the opposite way, where I think Chris Evans much more did like Captain America from the comics, the good heart and just the attitude, because that's very hard to pull off. Just being like, oh, I gung-ho, I love America, and all that kind of stuff. But he has a way of pulling it off, and it doesn't seem cheesy or fake. Fassbender is great. You going against Ian McKellen and holding your own as the character, that's tough to do. But for the purposes of this discussion, Captain America.
Okay, I'm going to give it to Chris Evans and Captain America only because of a couple of key things. I think Fassbender is a really dramatic actor. I think he pulled off Magneto extremely well. What did him in was his material. Like, Chris Evans has not been in a bad Captain America anything, but Michael Fassbender has been in some clunkers. And the
he was the best thing in them.
He was the best thing.
They were clunkers.
Best thing on the elevator ride to hell. But you've got his the first movie. First of all, when you see him as the CGI represented non-powered version, you're like, wow, Steve Rogers. He is Steve Rogers. He said every guy that doesn't have the power. Then when he actually does have the power, his Winter Soldier performance, his Civil War performance. You think of the the End Game. These are the performances. It's like there's never been I like to say, drop the shield moment in some of these films, but my man has dropped the shield and the hammer. And now that you do not see him around, you are like, they have made a mistake by not having Captain America in these films, because you need Captain America and Chris Evans. And like, we're sitting through and we're going to ruin Deadpool and Wolverine if you haven't watched it. But for about 30 seconds, we thought he was going to reprise it, and he did not. But yet, there was that hope that he could, because this man is Captain America. So
he's coming back. Cap's
he's
gonna
got
come
to.
back, and it's going to be Chris Evans for sure.
It,
But okay,
got to.
I look. This was a tough one. I'm not. It's
It
not
is.
not a huge argument for me. And so Chris Evans' Cap advances. Next up, we have Michael Keaton Batman and Margot Robbie playing Harley Quinn. This is clear cut for me. Don't have to get into much, although I think she did a really good job. It goes back to the source material again. There's some opportunities there, but I think she pretty much nailed it. You know, I don't think after that performance, there's any question marks of like she didn't do a great job in representing that character. And I think there was a good balance of like comic and also like the video games. I think she used like both of that to probably combine to create this on-screen persona. But at the end of the day, Michael Keaton, Batman, might be there's discussions, is he the best Bruce Wayne, but also is he the best Batman? But at the end of the day, I think this is clear cut for me.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I'm not going to even debate this one as well.
I had to give Margot Robbie some love because I think she did a pretty decent job. Michael Keaton advances. Next up is Henry Cavill's Superman, and then Loki, who has, he's got it. He made his own damn TV series. Thoughts here, gentlemen?
I don't think this is much of a debate either. It's Loki, Tom Hiddleston, just because, yeah, he was meant to be like a one-off villain kind of a thing, and he's so good that they can't like do an Avengers or half of these things without him. It's an interesting trickster character, and it's tough to pull off. That's a very tough character when you see him in the comic books with the giant horns and everything. You're like, oh, that's going to be ridiculous. And then you see him with it on, and you're like, bow down to me. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy's not messing around. Henry Cavill is a good Superman, but not that good.
Yeah. Well, I'll put Henry Cavill as like the second best Superman, and that's a very hard thing because most of these guys only get like one appearance basically to be Superman. So that's the unfortunate problem with that. I think Cavill it's great. I think he gets eliminated because he just didn't have the performance and the time on screen that Middleton had. He's one of those guys that you look at his work and like he's constantly doing Loki even when he's not doing Loki, so like, and I don't see the MCU without him. I know they said that last season was probably the last time it'll be that character. That's another one to never say never, because everybody's going to want to see that character back again. So obviously the Loki performance is 100% better.
It's Loki. Sorry, Cavill, again booted out. And now we have villain versus villain. We've got the one of the best Jokers in Jack Nicholson, and a very underrated, but someone who has played Kingpin in multiple different series and done it really well, including now it looks like Born Again and maybe perhaps Spider-Man 4, Vincent D'Onofrio. Who's the best?
Easy one for me. It's Vincent. Look, if there was no Heath Ledger, I would be like, wow, Jack Nicholson got this. But once you did the Heath Ledger role, I was like, wow. I was like, he upped Jack Nicholson. But so far, this is just a normal guy in the MCU, and he's one of the most terrifying villains I've seen. The Kingpin is iconic due to this man and his acting performance. It's the Kingpin for me, brother.
Yeah, Kingpin. Because, they've had people like Michael Clark Duncan and John Rhys Davies try and play him, and it don't work. I don't know why. They can't do it, and they're not bad actors at all. But this is a performance like you feel the power and the weight, especially because he isn't trying to do a lot. He's very calm and calculating, and very frightening, as Kingpin should be.
And I think one of the things too would be Jack only did this one film.
Yeah, exactly.
Vincent's range in multiple series and continued. It's hard to pull off very similar to, Huddleston with Loki. Like if you're able to do the character so well, and so I think that's the advantage here. Maybe if Jack was in the second Batman, we saw more things. Perhaps he's still one of the best damn villains of all time. But I got to give this one to Kingpin.
You get it.
And we've got Margot Kidder, the best Lois Lane. I think everyone can agree about that. And really the only Thor, and one that sounds like
not the only one.
Vincent D'Onofrio played Thor.
Yeah, not the
in
only one.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Doesn't count. I'm sorry. We're gonna.
No.
He was a tow truck driver.
You are totally forgetting that there was a made-for NBC movie in The Incredible Hulk.
Trial of Incredible Hulk.
They did have Thor, so he's been on screen before.
Those gentlemen did not make this bracket, so and Hemsworth is going to continue on.
Yes, he is.
And one thing I did appreciate is he, looking back at the last Thor movie, he regrets some of that, and I think how it kind of became too comedic. And I think he's aligned with if this is going to continue going back to Thor's roots. But as much as Lois Lane was so instrumental in the movies, she was really great. I mean, at the end of the day, Hemsworth, iconic, and did it so well in multiple versions of Thor, right? Like his saga, his ups and his downs, including, Fat Thor and all that. I just love it. I love it.
It has changed over time because at the beginning they were very literal where he was doing the Shakespearean, speech because Kenneth Branagh was the director. And they course corrected that somewhere between like 2 and Avengers. Yeah. And then it was a little bit more, and that's where we see sort of the character today. But it's a tough character to pull off as well, and again, they really cast these well in that first round of Marvel movies. He's fantastic, and as good as Margot Kidder is, because you feel like when she dies at the end of Superman 1, that's, you feel all of Superman's pain, but it's Hemsworth.
Yeah, I think Hemsworth definitely gets it. I don't see he's done such an iconic role with it. I would hate to have anybody have to come after him because people are going to constantly compare, Hemsworth. So that's how good he's done the role, is that he's ruined it for whoever the next actor is going to get it, because eventually they're going to reboot the entire universe. They're going to have to after so many years. They're going to have a tough performance because my man will be doing these brackets about 5-6 years later, and he'll still be the best Thor up there.
Thor advances. Sorry, Lois. Now we move on to the second round in the first side of the bracket. Ryan Reynolds versus Benedict Cumberbatch.
Still got to put Reynolds.
Yeah,
it's Deadpool.
Sorry, Doctor Strange, but Deadpool advances. Next
You're gone.
Up, Sam Jackson, Nick Fury versus Chris Evans, Captain America.
Still got to give it to Mr. Jackson.
I'm going to go with Captain America.
Oh, man, this is a tough one. Why is it got to fall on me?
Well, I don't know if we explained to everyone, but we're pre-recorded tonight, so the chat can't help. But I think Dr. Brentley and I will be live tomorrow night in the chat for everyone, so there'll be some kind of like interaction. But right now, it's like it's just the three of us.
But if
I'm
you
gonna
hate this
go-
decision, it's all on Rad.
I'm going with Cap. I'm
Okay.
going with Cap.
You're canceled.
So, Michael Keaton,
Ooh.
Tom Hiddleston. I'm gonna go first. Michael Keaton.
Yes, this one's I
told you.
Iconic wise,
stuff.
we're going for the best actors of all time. It's got to be Keaton. Then, I think Tom's great, but this guy is still everyone's Batman.
Well, I was gonna go with Loki, just because I don't know who else could do it. I've seen other people do Batmans to lesser degrees, some on par, but doesn't matter anyway. Batman's going through.
Also, when he did reprise his role in the Flash, he was still good. They was the best part of the Flash
yes,
movie.
Sir.
Actually.
Yes, he was the best thing in that.
That's what made it an easier point. He's done it recently.
Kingpin and Thor.
Kingpin.
I don't know if I can agree with you on that one. Although I could, but I think it's Helmsworth still. I think he's just defined that role of Thor. Not to say Vincent hasn't done his Kingpin, but I think Helmsworth just seems a little bit more iconic.
Again, what the heck? I got to go first next time, so I don't have to I got to go with Thor on this one. And maybe my answer changes as Vincent D'Onofrio goes and does more of this character in other series. But for now, I think the longevity playing the comic Thor and, again, various versions, I'm going with Hemsworth.
Well, at least there's a tiebreaker tonight, because if Chet was here, we'd just every one of these be like, oh, we're tied. How do we do it?
Yeah, I got to think so.
True.
Okay. I still think Ryan Reynolds. I just think Reynolds is Deadpool.
You better go, because I'm gonna go with Cap. Too late.
Okay. I think both of them, I don't think anybody will ever be able to do this character better than them.
No.
And they both have been in multiple, Evans being in more. And both movies have been great. If I'm just going to deciding factor of who represents the comic character better, I think it's Ryan Reynolds. I think if you look at Liefeld and the books and all that stuff, and his wackiness and vulgar and sense of humor and all the things, I think he's probably one of the most accurate translations of it to the screen. And the fact that the fact that they haven't been reluctant to make that happen has been really great. So I'm going to go with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I think Reynolds has the freedom more than Chris Evans had. Chris was, while he was able to come in and do some things, but like that blank sheet, I think absolutely propelled Ryan Reynolds to just really be himself and take it to the next level.
Deadpool advances.
Yep.
And now Michael Keaton and Thor.
We'll let you go first on this one, man.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Okay. We are down to the final two of this side of the bracket. Michael Keaton or Ryan Reynolds. Man, this is tough. This
Mm.
is the toughest one.
But if you're trying to do which is the more comic accurate, which is the best played one, it's Ryan Reynolds.
I agree.
I think so too. You know,
Man, who would have thought 20
no,
years ago Deadpool would be at the top of the
Well,
bracket?
Since he's not on this side yet, I'm guessing we're gonna see a title matchup of the summer's biggest hit.
I think so. I got a bad feeling.
Possibly,
I got a bad feeling.
possibly, but there are other folks to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, Deadpool has won the first side of the bracket, and before we go on to the right side of the bracket, subscribe, like the channel. Appreciate you all viewing and coming in and join the channel. There's a variety of different content, not just Pixels, Plastic, and Ink, but Toybox Chronicles and a variety of other related content around toys, comics, films, podcasts, etc. So we appreciate all of you stopping in. So let's jump back into the bracket, and it is Charles Xavier, none other than the Star Trek captain himself versus Toby's Spider-Man.
I'll say this: how many times you get to do two iconic performances and do them both equally great? It's very rare to ever have that happen in life, especially pop culture characters. Patrick Stewart is not only on a starship, but he's the head of the X Mansion. It is Patrick Stewart for me, man.
Yep,
I agree.
Patrick
Yeah.
Stewart, and good luck to the person that takes on Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
Up pretty soon. They're introducing the X-Men, so that's a tough act to follow. But
It is.
yeah, sorry, Toby.
Sorry,
Not
Toby.
close.
See you later. Both Spideys eliminated in the first round. Isn't that interesting? Now we have Chris Pratt as Star-Lord versus Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
This was almost unfair. I would say
it is unfair to Chris
Robert
Pratt.
Downey Jr. is gonna slaughter that.
Well, that's why I was
100%.
interested when you all said Wolverine, because we haven't gotten to some of the other folks.
Oh,
RDJ's in here, so RDJ advances as Iron Man. Now we have Mr. Boseman, Black Panther, rest in peace, and one of the best villains of all time here, Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. Sad that both gentlemen haven't had more performances, especially Mr. Boseman, but it's Chadwick. It's this man is unfortunately, I do think they do need to have another Black Panther because he's such a great character, but out the box, he nailed this character when we saw him in Civil War. Like it's 100% Chadwick Boseman.
Yep, Black Panther.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, we have Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. I think this is going to be a sweep.
Oh, yeah.
Although you got to give credit, Doc Ock and Goblin, two of the best villains in the Spideyverse.
If he wasn't right up to the best that's ever done it, yeah. But going on year 22, 23, Hugh Jackman Hugh Jackman's got this, man. But
you picked the wrong fight, bub.
But I will say that when I think of Doc Ock, I absolutely come to him first. There's no one better than that. But unfortunately, though, again, he's the best that's ever done it and probably the best that ever will. So we're going to give it to Hugh Jackman right here. And I love that iconic suit that he was finally able to wear, man.
I don't know why it took him so long. It's like they finally see, like, oh, yeah, maybe we should do it like it's been for I don't know 40 years,
and it didn't look ridiculous. They kept saying it was going to look ridiculous. What are you talking about? It looked like he should have been in it,
and that cowl too, like
wow.
Amazing. Heath Ledger versus Lex Luthor, two iconic villains,
and I will say two of the best DC villains of all time.
Oh yeah.
So like, you got to give it where, these characters are there. There's a reason for it, but it, this man was on the screen for 5 minutes and it was like iconic. And you're like, all the naysayers left that theater and everyone was like, Heath Ledger is no joke. It was an amazing performance. And again, the shame of it is that we did not get to see another performance out of him like that because it would have been just magic. Heath Ledger, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Heath Ledger, because people might not remember up until the release of it.
Oh yeah,
People were like, Heath Ledger, oh, that's a
Yeah.
terrible idea. And unfortunately, he died before it was released. And then people just stopped talking like that because, you don't want to speak ill of the dead. But when it finally came out, people were like, oh,
yeah,
we really messed up by talking shit about this guy before we saw anything.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Heath Ledger. Moving on. Next up. Ooh-wee. And you all said Wolverine Jackman, and you all didn't think about Blade, my friend.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Iconic himself.
Well,
This is clear cut. Gal Gadot did a really good job as
she did.
is Wonder Woman, but come on,
Mhm.
man. I mean, comic accurate, the man himself. This is Blade.
Yeah.
And let's just not forget there'll never be another Blade. When he said that in that movie, and Ryan Reynolds was like, Ryan Reynolds looked at the screen like, "You goddamn right, there'll never be another Blade." And then after that movie came out, we heard nothing about this new freaking
Yeah.
Blade movie. And I think anybody that tries to play Blade at this point,
Mhm.
give this man another movie. Give him one more thing. I think he can pull it off, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
give
obviously.
him one more.
Yeah.
Give
yeah.
him one more shot. But this is Blade for me.
It's
Yeah.
Blade.
Never gonna doubt that. Like I said again, well, yeah, I think also she falls victim of not, the material she was given. One movie was great. The rest of the material was never up to that
Mhm.
level. And it's a shame that she can't reprise it because I do think she's a great actress. But yeah, this is the person where, look, sorry, Mr. Ali, but this is Blade. Unfortunately, we'll probably never see your version of Blade though, that Deadpool Wolverine, because I got a feeling now that you're gonna almost have to do another one with Wesley Snipes.
Well, and also now there's the movie Sinners
Yeah.
with Michael B. Jordan, and they were talking about the Blade movie being set like in the 1920s. So again, this is something that is going to come up against it, and it's like it looks like Ryan Coogler may have done it a little bit better and got a little head start on this and Bitter Root.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Blade advances. Sorry, Wonder Woman, you are eliminated. We have Alfred, Michael Caine versus Thanos and Mr. Brolin himself. Ooh, this is a tough one because, you don't necessarily think of Alfred as this like in the upper echelons of some of the people we've been talking about, but he nailed that Alfred character in those films. But at the end of the day, for me, Thanos, man. I mean, he's the mega villain, and he did it so well. And to be able to do that in green screen, and the way he did it, for me, it's Thanos.
Yeah, and see, I've look, whenever I think of Alfred, I think of Jeremy Irons now, to be quite honest with you. I think he outperformed Michael Caine's performance, but look, it's the snap that this was the greatest Marvel villain that could have showed up, and Brolin did such a fantastic job that it's like it's a shame he gets two movies, but you technically, I don't think you need to see Thanos again because I think you're just going to ruin Thanos. I think he did it perfectly in two roles or two films. I don't think that it ever needs to be touched again. But yeah, Brolin he's fantastic, and I think he could be on this list a couple of times too because his cable was damn near accurate too.
Yeah, I think it's Thanos. I mean, it is not accurate to the comics, but it is comic accurate. If you
Mhm.
understand what I mean, you know,
Yes.
because the look, the way he's pulling off the performance, amazing.
Yep. I agree. Thanos advances, and it's Ian McKellen as Magneto and Christopher Reeve, iconic Superman.
I think this is
What do you
tough because I
think?
don't think anybody would ever say that somebody can outact Ian McKellen, but Christopher Reeve did. Christopher Reeve did. Like I said, this man made me believe he can fly, and he still does. No one's done it better in the role. Like it's Christopher Reeve. You hear that icon, you see him, and like it's that man. You know, probably one of the best accurate comic book wise. He seems every bit of Superman.
Yeah, I think it's
It's
Christopher
Supes.
Reeve.
It's Supes as much as McKellen. It's just a tough match, first round matchup.
It's yeah.
You put him against the best Superman of all
You
time.
do.
It's kind
You
of
do.
okay. Come on. Although he really nailed Magneto.
He
He
did.
really did.
He
He
did.
really did, and he was a part of some of the best
But
X-Men movies
but
too.
look, but someone did take over for the role and was just as good as him.
That's true.
No one has been able to come in and do a Superman.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone else. The new movie had to came out, and I don't think anyone else is going to do it either.
Yeah, they're
That's
not in
what's a
danger.
shame. Yeah, yeah.
Next up, Professor X versus RDJ and Iron
Easy
Man.
one, Robert Downey Jr. for the win.
Yeah, same for me.
Robert
Although,
Downey.
again, probably
Yeah.
Professor X iconic, but
Yeah.
RDJ. Next up, Black Panther, Wolverine. Hey, we love you, Bozeman, but Wolvie.
Going on 35 years or soon. Where is it? 40 now? How many? It's like he's almost Wolverine's actual age. It's going to be Hugh Jackman, man.
Hugh Jackman.
Next up, Heath Ledger and Wesley Snipes.
While I love Ledger, but he's had more performances, more time to see him, and had a recent performance. It's got to be Wesley Snipes.
And again, if we're doing like what's accurate to the comics, this is not really. They've done some stuff after his performance that have tried to do a Joker's like him, but I think it's Wesley.
Yeah, if Ledger had been in other films, maybe longevity, he's the best. He's the best Joker and one of the best villains to ever do it. But I think it's Wesley for sure. And Thanos versus Supes.
Christopher Reeve is still number one, bro.
Oh,
and next round's gonna be a bitch.
This one's a little tougher for me, and only because I just think. Well, I got to take that. I got to take it out. Okay, I think Thanos made the last two movies.
Yes.
Like, without him, he really was the star. But if we're thinking the best to ever play a character, it's Christopher Reeve. But I just want to say, Brolin's. It's not like it's far apart here. I think it's pretty close here.
Well, this is the one thing I'll give Christopher Reeves the edge over almost any actor on the list, is that while his material, because he had really two great material films and then two that were lackluster, his performances in every role in all four films was the highlight of the films. So he never wavered. That's the difference between it. It's that he was just a great actor, but you truly believed his performance as Superman. You never said, oh, he put a bad performance on. It was the scripts or his other castmates that just didn't live up to what he was doing.
Yeah, in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace,
yeah,
everything in that movie was a train wreck except for him.
Exactly.
And there's not a bit of it where you go like, oh, well, Superman wouldn't do that or wouldn't say that. They gave him terrible stuff to do, but he did it well.
I even believe that if he hadn't had his tragic accident, and years down the line, I could see a Kingdom Come version with an older, I'm sleeping in my mind at the moment, but I think that Christopher Reeves, I could see that being like, set up for him to come back and do a role like that if he hadn't had his tragic accident. So,
I mean, I would have paid money to see Christopher Reeve, Michael Keaton, and Linda Carter as the
Amazing.
Trinity.
Yeah,
that would have been
it would
awesome.
have been great. Okay, Superman advances. Oh my goodness.
Now this one's a tough one right here because both actors, like I said,
No
but
one will ever be able to play these characters.
it,
It's gonna. I feel bad for whoever will be taking over.
it is. It's going to be a tough one.
Oh man. I mean, look. The argument is that Hugh Jackman's been in some duds.
Yes, he has been,
and RDJ has not. So,
but
some of the Iron Mans weren't as good as others.
Yeah.
Shit, man. This one is incredibly tough.
So, with Wolverine, he's gone through PG-13 and R-rated movies. He's still Wolverine in them, even when he's playing it safe-ish at the beginning of the movies. He's still Wolverine. I think Robert Downey Jr. is amazing, and yeah, there's no one else you're gonna get to play, but I really think just the longevity, and he was able to play old Logan as well as the fresh-faced young. So
that's what did him in for me, is that we've seen him do multiple eras, multiple times. Wolverine, where he's been in, if you look at Days of Future Past, he's in the 70s. He's in the future in Logan. He is in Deadpool. He's a variant. Like, he's played every part of Wolverine in the Wolverine movie. He's done a couple of performances, and now we get the most accurate version of him in the suit with the lines that everybody wanted him to say. I love Robert Downey Jr., but Hugh Jackman kicks his butt on this one, man. As much as Wesley's great and shit, I'm sorry. Like, as a Wesley, you ran up against somebody that you couldn't ice skate up a hill.
Well, it's like I mean, how long has it been since Christopher Reeve played Superman? We're still talking about no one's playing better. That goes to show you. I mean, how many years has gone by?
And Wesley should be happy that he's even in the conversation with it, though, because Wesley's in that conversation too, though.
So, Dr. Brantley, I think your prediction is spot on.
Yep, I think it is.
Summer blockbuster of the year.
Yep. Well, the man can fly and everything else like that. Somebody's got adamantium claws.
Well, and I think for the same reasons,
I think so.
Wolverine is going to take it.
I think so,
ladies and gentlemen.
So too.
Hugh Jackman, who will carry on the legacy of Wolverine in other installments
till you're 90,
is the best to ever do it.
There you go, man.
The King, Mr. Wolverine, Hugh Jackman. Man, that was tough. Look at the Final Four. Soups.
I know.
Batman, Deadpool, Wolverine, man. I mean, could it get more iconic? Wow. Gentlemen, it was tough, but we arrived at a winner. Chat. People in the comments, if you disagree, please give us your thoughts. Click subscribe, comment, follow the channel.
Okay, yeah. Well, like I said, now that we've seen the best that's ever done it, Mr. Hugh Jackman, we're rolling into some news of the week and everything, so that we'll roll that in. Let's get it through. So we're going to start off with a couple of key things. As you can see, Mr. Mike Mignola said the most accurate version of his character was being done, and he was extremely proud. I read a couple of interviews with him, and he was looking forward to this version of Hellboy getting to the screen. Lower budgets than the other previous versions, but he was able to write along with Christopher Golden. If you've ever read any of the Hellboy books or the BPRDs, He's a frequent collaborator with Mike Mignola. And this one was set to hit on the 27th, which is that's this weekend. It's Friday.
Tomorrow.
But well, tomorrow or today, if you're
Today.
watching it right now.
Yes, today. We're doing this live. What are you talking about?
But this will not be going to theaters. In fact, and everything, a couple of days before it was supposed to hit theaters, it was pulled from a theatrical run, and this is going to go straight to video, and it will drop on October 8th.
What do you mean video though? Like, is it a streaming service? Is it Walmart VHS?
No,
like
just
video on demand? I guess Apple, the Fandango, I think also Google. So you'll be able to sit at home and just like if it was,
if you
during
pay
the
your
pandemic,
$6.99 or whatever,
watch
you
it.
can get the premium version.
Now, this is when it tells you that the studio saw what they felt was tracking, and they didn't really have faith in this in the beginning. They gave them a budget only because of the fact is that, you know, there might have been some kind of forms of obligation, because I think it's through the same studio that did the last version. But this is like, you can just tell. And look, I've got to be honest with you. I saw the trailer and I thought it looked a very low budget, like uninspiring version of it. So, you know, whether, you know, Mike Mignola, you know, he's proud of his saying he finally has it back in hands, but maybe this is one of those incidents where, like, you know, whenever you think about Frank Miller to the screen, maybe sometimes comic book creators shouldn't take their own creations or situation to the screen, because maybe it doesn't work as well for some of them.
Now, see, I could see this working as a low budget movie because it is, you know, Hellboy is atmospheric and creepy. It's not all about giant monsters and fights.
Sure.
A lot of times Hellboy is like in underground crypts and going, you know, with ghosts and all sorts of weird stuff. But you know, it's bad when a studio has put out trailers and posters and then says, you know what, we're not going to make our money back. Let's just stop all this.
Yeah.
This is definitely not a good sign.
No, not at all.
I don't know. It's sad because
it is,
between the last film and this, like, such a great character and started off with a bang, and with the first one, you know, it doesn't seem to be as relevant anymore in pop culture. Obviously, part of it is because of the dying comics and graphic novel audience, but also anybody that's had a hint of Hellboy recently is probably got so much distaste in their mouth that they wouldn't even explore this one. So I hope, you know, it's better than we all think, but usually this is a sign of death. And could this be nominated for a box office graveyard? We shall see.
We'll see.
On October 8th, we'll be able to find out for ourselves, and we'll tell the world. But
now,
you know,
I will say though that I think Hellboy would work if they did like a streaming service, did like the BPRD as a series.
Yes,
they've got enough stories. They've investigated enough weird shit in their time, so that they have plenty of material. And you have Hellboy as just one of those characters, and then you have Abe Sapien and Liz Sherman and, you know, all the others. But you don't just center it around him and have to make it this 2-hour extravaganza. No, it could be smaller, weird stories.
Well, here's the thing. This is not a success even for video on demand. I think that he's oversaturated on, at least in the film industry, Hellboy. And I think he's going to have to sit down for some years, kind of like the same way that Batman had to sit down for some years, because I think it's just too much in the public eye. And I don't know if that's a good thing, you know, and everybody keeps saying that Del Toro did it best. And, you know, he had some things he could have done better with it. So it's a shame, but this what goes with, you know, you take something to the screen way too many times. It sometimes doesn't work. We're going to flip it over to the Strange Tale things. We were talking about this on Toybox Chronicles. And yes, Chet had a windfall of Strange Tales wave that popped up at his house. And I know, Raj, you've had a couple. I'm waiting for, I think I only really did Moon Knight and Dr. Voodoo, which you can also change to Brother Voodoo. So there's 2 lanes. And I think I also did Damien Hellstorm. But I wasn't interested in the Build-A-Figure. I've seen Blackheart a couple of times before, and it's like, yeah, great, but I just wanted a couple of the characters there. But it looks great. The box art is fantastic. Marvel Legends even did a different box art for this than they did their standard 85-year releases, and it's just they are doing wonderful work. I hope that Hasbro keeps the Marvel Legends, because I think they're just really knocking it out the box. The Marvel Legends team is doing a great job. Rad, what you think about I know you got 1 or 2 of these pop up at your house, right?
Yeah, Brother Voodoo, and obviously I love the. I think the wave is really cool. I'm waiting for the Moon Knight to come in.
Yeah.
But I'm really impressed with the Dracula figure. He looks pretty cool. But I think I can't agree with you more in terms of the ability to display a figure in box, both front facing but side facing, is really important to me. So you could stack them like libraries, and that's one library books. That's one thing that I really have enjoyed with like some of the NECA stuff, is they have really good side box art where you could display it. The Marvel ones have sometimes lacked that a bit. So I love the box shape here, but cool wave. And I love that, the retro card Secret Wars will be coming next, and then we'll have the I think hitting November. I just got a notification they're hitting sooner than December. Is the MCU Deadpool Wolverine figures, with Jackman and stuff. So that'd be cool to get Jackman Wolvie figures. So again, Hasbro's on a tear here with good stuff. But some really cool characters here for sure.
Yeah, I think Moon Knight looks sick.
Yeah.
And
that's a classic Moon Knight too, from the 90s. So people, he's gone through different looks. And the Dracula one, if you actually finish Blood Hunt over the summer, he's still in it. That's the version that he looks like in the Blood Hunt universe. It's the most modern version of Dracula. So great looking figures. And then, excuse me, the Helverine, the Vengeance is just wow, just a great looking. And I know Chet had that. He displayed that. So that was really good. And then we'll close out our news of the week for the happiest people. If you purchased it, then you're on cloud 9. If you didn't, you're scrambling to find someone else that is going to sell you one. But you got until October 27th to get your change of addresses in if you moved or anything, and so they can send this giant box, and it's gonna be a huge box, to your residence. But that is, they're on March saying that it should be there by December. If it's at the end of October where they're like, hey, change your address and everything, you're right. It's gonna be probably first week of December. People will start actually getting, or probably last week of November, first week of December, they'll be getting their Dragonflies in. And this thing is huge. Comes with its own stands. It comes with 4 different characters. Of course, you get the classic Wild Bill that everybody has been clamoring over. Again, if you notice, you'll be seeing me knock down my entire change back here because I'm running out of space on top, so I'm bringing in some new stuff. So you're going to see a brand new layout behind me soon because we got to make room for the Dragonfly to show up. So great looking vehicle. Again, Hasbro. Is this not Hasbro's year? I don't know who is if it isn't.
That's right. And when the Giant Man ships, you can have Giant Man fighting the copter. HasLab versus HasLab.
And the only reason why I haven't actually, because at one point I was thinking about maybe the Sentinel or something, but for God's sakes, just where the hell do you put this stuff? It's getting to the point where, and we've already pre-ordered our ramen toys. And if anyone out there hasn't done that, your early bird special on his REV vans is ready to expire pretty soon. So if you want to get in a smaller price range, now's the time to do that. Because if you wait, then it's going to jump up significantly when you want to do that. And that's not even with the shipping on it. So there's just so many great items. And then he's announced at the end of in the next couple of weeks, He's going to have the Razor and another
Yes.
another
Oh,
ramen
man.
racer that's popping up, and so
Made my day when Mr. Storm sent me that that news, because I'm like, I ain't missing it this time. And I'm gonna
yeah,
get that. I'm gonna get that Mad Max one too.
yeah,
You
the
better
ramen razor,
believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
ramen
Yeah.
racer's coming, ramen razor, those are dropping there. So like, it's just like, again, this is one where they say, be careful of your Christmas and everything else like that. And the good thing about the ramen racer being reissued is, with the reissues, he's worked out most of the bugs from the first time it was shipped. So these should ship even quicker than they initially did, because he's been through the QC stuff. He knows how to ship it. What's the shipping is going to be like. So this next run, now the thing that's going to be different about that ramen racer is that it will only be the Infernal Pack version, and then they will have one that's just all blacked out. So it will not be exactly like the Chrome version that you've seen. You won't be able to make it look like the Fast and Furious and the Blades. It will look slightly different. Like the Infernal version will have an all red engine block instead of a chrome block that I have. And so there's subtle changes, but hey, if you missed out, you're going to definitely want to get it, because it is probably one of the best items of this year. Myself and Chet both have it. He has it in the internal pack. I have mine bladed out. Still waiting for Blade. For some strange reason, it's taking Blade forever to get to his car. But it is what it is. But that's all we've got for news for the day. So back to you, Rat.
Thanks, Mr. Storm. Always with the good, the bad, and the ugly in news. And the ugly, unfortunately, is the Hellboy film. But we got some good stuff along the way. Again, thanks for tuning in every Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific time here on the Shadow Knows Network. And on the Shadow Knows Network, we have a variety of other things to view. If you haven't already checked out, we got the Toybox Chronicles every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, and a variety of other different things. What's on the channel? Man, your Wednesday nights should be packed. You've got the Sarlacc Digest, all things Star Wars. You got Toybox Chronicles with Mr. Storm and Chet Maddox himself, and then a bunch of other things that are going to be hitting the Shadow Knows Network soon, including the Retrospect Vault. For those of you who haven't checked the Retrospect series, you can look at past episodes, Mr. Storm and Dr. Brantley, as they further explore and deepen the path of films of the past, from horror collection all the way through things like Indiana Jones. And can we give a sneak peek or teaser? Is it too soon on what the first Retrospect Vault series will be about, or what do you think?
Well, I think we can tease it right now. Don't you think we could do that, Dr. Burnley?
I don't know. It's night. I'm feeling kind of dead. I don't know if we can do it.
Well, there is the hint. It's night and feeling kind of dead. Well, stay tuned for the channel. And then also, for those of you who like dragons, swords, and magic, well, look no further than Getting Medieval, the new podcast, a joint collaboration between Darth Moocher, who's on the Sarlacc Digest, and Mr. Storm and Dr. Brantley, as they talk about the realm of fantasy, from Lord of the Rings, the Game of Thrones, and all things that come with that. And recently, it's been all about Rings of Power. So if you're into those things, hearing about reviews and talking about the variety of different topics in the world of fantasy, will look no further than the new podcast here on the channel. And speaking of our channel, we got to thank our affiliates and sponsors. And first is, hey, we love toys. We love collecting toys and collectibles. And if you do too, and you're looking to pre-order stuff, well, why not use our incentive and our code and use Entertainment Earth? Man, use it. If you're going to order it, why not use our code, man? You save money, you get the shipping discounts. It's all great. And then, of course, we love the mom and pops, and our first ever sponsor. We got to give love to Tony and Toys versus Games.
Toys versus
Games. I'm here with the man, the owner.
Tony at Toys versus Games. Versus
Games.
Oh.
Gotta support the local shop. If you're ever in that neighborhood in Wilmington, stop on by and tell Tony that we sent you. And last but not least, our newest affiliate for you comic heads and comic collectors, whether you're buying, you're selling, you're shipping, you're protecting, well, we have just linked an official partnership with the best damn collectors resources that you can find, and that is none other than Gemini. Again, if you're interested in any of those things, use our code. It helps the channel and it helps you. Gentlemen, any remaining thoughts before we adjourn on this fine Friday evening?
Yeah, like I said, again, if you've been watching this through, I hope you guys haven't thought it was live because it's not pre-recorded. But but Dr. Bradley and myself will be in the chat. So if you've seen any interaction, it's probably the two of us. So while the rest of the crew and everything, we normally do our live streams on Fridays. Every now and then, we've got to give you some pre-recorded love. So this is going to be for the replay crew. So, but live-wise, Dr. Bentley and I will answer some questions in the chat and everything. So we'll be watching recorded live chatting with you. Isn't that very interesting?
Yeah. Sorry, Chet couldn't make it tonight, but we would have been here like another hour because it would have all been like having to tie break all those brackets.
One last announcement, ladies and gentlemen, for you local LA folks in Southern California, or if you're potentially flying to check out the LA Comic Con, we might have a special announcement. You may see some of the PPI Shadow Nose Network crew. You might be able to meet us. More to come. Stay tuned to the channel. We'll provide you updates. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you all next week.